Hey guys, welcome to Chef Grace's Place. Today I have Annie from Give Me Lemons, a
Ah,
fantastic channel. Uh, I love I was first attracted to your YouTube channel just from the name because, give me lemons, make lemonade. Uh,
mm-hmm.
was that where you came up with that or?
Yeah, I was trying to come up with a name, and just I started the channel during pretty much at the beginning of COVID lockdown. So it's something that I wanted to do for years, but I couldn't work at the restaurant I usually work in, and I can't just I'm not a stay-at-home mom type, so I really needed to do something creative and just keep cooking, keep creating. And I also love lemons, like I get it. If I don't have lemons in the house, it's like not having toilet paper in the house. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I start panicking. Like, I don't have acid. I need lemons in the house. So it's kind of a combination of that. And also sort of, I guess, the story of my life is I get lots of lemons and I make something of it. So that's just sort of that's I feel like it represents me in my life as well.
So you just mentioned the restaurant you usually work in. What is your background in cooking?
Okay, so I worked in advertising for 11 years as an art director.
So that's why
So
you're
that's my background. Yeah, and then but that whole time I'm like, I want to go to culinary school. I want to be cooking. I want to, I come home and I just be cooking or baking. And at the same time, my family was like, you're crazy. You're making so much money, advertising New York City, you can make a pretty good living with that, even though actually like you're not really making that much money considering, like because you're living in
you're
that city.
living in
But
the city. Yeah.
yeah, it just like goes right out. But I just, I was reading a lot. I read a lot of cookbooks, a lot of books about food, just, and at some point I read a book called, I think it was called How Becoming a Chef. I can't remember the title of it, but it was a combination of that book and the book Heat. Do you know Heat? Bill
Yeah.
Bufford.
Yep.
Yeah. he goes into Mario Batali's kitchen and he stages there and he like gets his butt whooped, and but it's just like told in such an interesting and just it's very inspiring because you think, okay, like that's how you learn. You don't, it's not necessarily like the culinary school. So, and I read, Anthony Bourdain is always like down on culinary school, even though he went himself. But, he'd be like, if people ask him, should I go to culinary school? They'd be like, he'd just tell them, just go in the kitchen and just try it out first.
I
So I
think
did that. I quit my job. I called up a chef that I admire, said, hey, can I work in your kitchen? I'll do it for free. And I just want to learn. And I mean, like in the States, right? The culinary school education is just so insanely expensive. And I figured, I think, it's better to just do that, not get paid and work that way instead of getting in debt. Because I had already gone to university. I didn't need to pay more money to go to culinary school. So I did that, and that's how I got into food.
so. You are Korean American, right?
Yes.
So did you grow up close to the city? How did you wind up doing advertising first?
Um, Wait, I'm wondering about the Korean American and then the city thing.
So I'm assuming if you grew up close to New York City, then you had some of that really good Korean food over there in New Jersey.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Jersey. Actually, I gotta say, like, I grew up on Long Island. Do you know Long
Oh,
Island?
okay. Yeah, my
Yeah, in Port Washington. Woo. It's like 45, it's like a 45-minute train ride from the city.
yep.
So you don't really like. I guess on the weekends we used to go to Jersey with my parents, but most of the Korean food was like given to me at home. It's just from morning to night, you know, like you start in the morning with rice and you end the day with rice. So yeah, it's mostly my mom's cooking.
So now you're in Berlin, right?
I wish. I'm in Dusseldorf.
Oh, okay.
It's so here's like Germany. There, Berlin is on the east side, and Dusseldorf is more like west. It's actually right on the border of the Netherlands.
So how'd you wind up over there?
My husband's German, and
You're going to like the best food, like
you think so?
Like, well, like just I mean, German food's like winter food, but it's just
yeah,
you get to have a lot of variety, I guess.
I'd say like in terms of meat, if you're a meat lover, I guess it's great, especially pork. There's pork everywhere. Did you know that even the gummy bears are, the gelatin's all made out of pork rind, and there's so much pork here. So if you're into that, it's great, and it's good for the first month, and then you're like, oh, I like my vegetables back. I miss fruit. Like we lived in California for 5 years before this, so it was painful. I'm like, oh man, I miss avocados and oranges that are, like
lemons.
Yeah, that's right. Lemons.
Lemon tree in your backyard in Germany.
Yeah, what people don't know, or I didn't know this till recently, was like most of the produce is coming from Spain. So like like the oranges are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But they traveled a long way. You're not getting local oranges here.
No. Even here, I'm really surprised at how we're dealing with like an inflation problem basically. And usually at like the cheap, the grocery store, I could get like 7 limes for $1. And
Whoa.
now like 2 limes for $1.
Yeah. Oh wow. So how long has that been going on?
That just started happening in the past couple of weeks. But like the food prices have really soared. But for that to happen in Florida, like I don't know if you can hear that. Somebody's doing jumping upstairs.
Extra, yeah, they're doing like indoor workouts, whatever. Yeah. Corona workout.
But yeah, we produce a lot of the citrus for the country, so for it to get that expensive is kind of crazy,
Yeah, do you think it's like labor? There's lack of workers, they're out of work, or I don't know.
I don't know. It might be that. It might be that it might be harder for the laborers. Most of them are migrant workers, so
yeah,
back in maybe, or vice versa. But I don't know. Or it could just be that they see an opportunity to jack the prices up. So they're going to.
It's like the gas price. Like you don't know why it's happening, but suddenly it's up and down. So I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you can't get your limes. That hurts.
Yeah, I got a couple, but gotta use some. I actually, I went a little German. I used some vinegar the other day. So, how was your kids?
Yeah. You can hear that, huh? Yeah, they're gonna get loud. I'm sorry. They're loud. I have 2 boys. They're loud.
So one of my favorite. I mean, I'm assuming your videos are like really pretty to watch.
Thank you.
So that comes from your background is in art directing?
Yeah. I guess so.
Yes.
I've also watched a lot of food documentaries, so that might be an influence as well. It's like
That,
anything that has to do with food, I'll watch it.
I just watched the one on Netflix about um, African American cooking, and like
Yes, High on the Hog. I just finished watching that too.
that was good.
So good.
That was,
It's like essential. It's an essential watch, right? You gotta watch it if you live
yeah.
in the States, especially.
I mean, I think yeah, even if you don't live in the States, because I thought it was really interesting with them going back to Africa and everything. Like
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. And personally for me, it was interesting because my boyfriend he's Dominican, like his first generation. His parents are from the Dominican Republic, but
Yeah.
um, we got the DNA test done for Christmas or something. My mom's
Wow.
uh, genealogy and know where our family's from and stuff.
Yeah.
And he, a lot of his DNA was from that. So, and I also like I wonder so much too because I don't know what I've never been there, so I don't know what the narrative is like in the Dominican Republic or something like that, if they talk about slavery or whatever. But those people got there on those ships. That was one of the stops.
Right. That's right.
So,
It's a big industry there. I don't know if the Dominican Republic had a sugar industry too. I know that in Jamaica, the sugar industry was huge there too. And so
yeah, all
it
the
is like
places that have really good rum, they had sugar industry. The Jamaicans have very good rum, and so do the Dominicans.
wow.
Yeah, so that was really interesting because growing up, I grew up with my boyfriend, and they always talk about the cuisine as being Latin, Spanish. And I always assumed also that you have a lot of Native American influence in there too. But nobody really talks about what the African influence would be. And then they went
Yeah.
so deep into what like the rice was and everything.
Oh man, that rice topic is, because you grow up in America thinking, okay, the slaves had to pick cotton. But no, the rice was what made the South so wealthy. I, it's unbelievable to think, that it's not something that was talked about. And I read it. There's a book out right now. There's a writer, Clint Smith. I follow him on Instagram, and he has a book out right now, and he also wrote an article for The Atlantic recently, and he talks about in this article how he goes to the South and he visits these Confederate families that are still they're sort of celebrating and also kind of mourning the loss of that time. And so the conversations they have, and they have these sort of, these, events, to commemorate their ancestors, and he was there, as like the only Black man, and the kind of sort of almost sort of scary atmosphere it was for him, because he didn't know what to expect, right? Because they were all looking at him like, what are you doing here? But they truly believe that that time was not about money, or that like they have a very different understanding of that time. It's like they look back on it fondly. It was good times, and even the slaves, they were kind of like compliant, and but but when you really read about it, that Civil War, they claim that it had nothing to do with the slaves and nothing to do with them wanting to hold on to slavery, but that was not true, because they made so much money off of that rice that they were farming, that the Africans, they brought over the Africans who were, you know, like good at farming rice, and they brought the rice over too. So yeah, and there's the Carolina Gold. It's named for a reason, Carolina Gold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, heavy topic.
I'm very surprised though that Carolina Gold almost kind of like disappeared as a
Yeah.
so that's kind of interesting. But I guess when you abolish slavery, you don't have the people to.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently it was really hard work, and there was a lot of disease on the farms, and you know, they went through some tough times. So,
Yeah.
actually, there's a Philly chef. I don't know if you follow him, Omar Tate. It's like I'm kind of obsessed with him right now. He was on on one of the episodes. He's the Philly
He was on that.
chef.
Yeah, I haven't heard of him until I saw it on the show, so I gotta go follow him.
Yeah, his food is really just beautiful, you know, and sad at the same time, because he's trying to tell the story of his people through his food. So yeah, but he did it was, I could say, a cooking class, because it was about, he was a resident chef at the Stone Barns. Do you know Stone Barns? Blue Hill at Stone Barns up in Terrytown. It's like a farm to table restaurant. It's he was a resident chef there, and yeah, he did a cooking class there, and he talks about rice, you know, and you know, it is like mind-blowing, because you think, I had no idea, like who knew about that rice industry, right?
Yeah, and especially growing up, even learning about food, you learn about food, I guess, through like, especially I guess in America, like I was lucky where I grew up, there were so many different cultures, but there weren't a lot of, like, there were African Americans, but there weren't a lot of like Africans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there weren't a lot of like Ethiopian restaurants or anything until I think when I was in college, I went to like my first Ethiopian restaurant. So I had always associated rice with either, you know, Asian cuisine or, you know, and also Indian, you know, or Latin cuisine.
Right. With your boyfriend.
Yeah. Or, you know, risotto. That was it. You know?
Right. Yeah. So interesting.
So it was like really, you know, you almost thought of something as it was like rice was adopted, you know, into the culture instead of like coming from that culture.
Yeah.
But now I realize, oh, no.
No.
The other way around.
Now we all know better. You know, like, I think we're all just starting to understand, and even the Black American community, I think, is like, for example, is Omar Tate, like he's learning about his past. You know, I see them in this whole documentary, right? They're learning about their past finally, because they're giving themselves the allowance, and they're at a place where they're able to do that. But until now, you have to wonder why something like that hasn't existed earlier, right? That kind of documentary.
I think we know why.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately. But so moving from America to Germany, how that must be a very different culture, or even in, you know, you grew up with probably the same idea of racism, well, especially when it comes to Black people, obviously. you're Korean, so you have a whole other thing to deal with too. But so how is going from the States to Europe? Was it different? Was it worse? Was it
in terms of racism, like how I experienced that?
Yeah. And
okay. It's interesting because I think right now the climate with Asian Americans is very different than like what I grew up with. So there's that. And yes, it is different because in the States, you know, like the idea of the model minority, and I think that's there. And so you grow up, I don't know, I think most Asians, we just learn to keep our head low, you know, just shut up and just work hard. And you just try to show your worth by doing that. And so nobody tells you that growing up, but for some reason you see your parents doing that, and you see your community doing that, and you do that too. And it's not anything that's sort of taught outwardly, but now I realize like it's toxic because, you know, there is no sense of at a certain point, there's a kind of, I think, pride that comes into play when that happens, because you can work your way into a place where you're successful and you're not considered dangerous. And, you know, at the same time, that creates a brokenness between your community and the other minorities, you know? And, you know, just like the LA riots, for example, that there's a reason why that happened, you know, it's like the other, you know, it's like your camp and my camp, and there's a bit of this I am better, or, you know, and
tribalism.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And so I'm learning about that right now, and just trying to just build some solidarity, at least in my heart and with what I am able to do with the Black community, and just being aware, you know, and I know that's not enough there, but, you know, wanting to do more with that. In terms of Germany and the kind of, that's a heavy topic though.
I know. Here we go.
It's
heavy.
I can say that the younger generation, they're very self-aware, and they make a great effort, and I appreciate that. You know, they speak amazing English, and, you know, they're very open. At the same time, I have to say this in a way that's like easy to, if any Germans listen to this. I think because of their recent past and the really like hard education about it, you know, like sort of apologetic, you should feel sorry for your past and apologize. And, you know, there's this very heavy history to deal with. And so, and they're taught pretty intensely in school about it. And because they're taught sort of theoretically, or at least, you know, you're not like, you haven't been a part of it, right? And so because you're educated, you think you know better, and that you're not racist, or that you know, like you love everyone, and you're not that. But it's, at the same time, I see that they don't really have to live with like a great variety of people, you know, like very like, you know, having to ride the subway with someone in your face, and, you know, just having to mix with so many different kinds of people. They're not having to do that, at least not yet. And so I think it's more sort of in the head and not applied. And so
more theory than practice.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that. And so when they encounter someone like me, I think there's a sort of a gap there, you know, because they have to put into practice, or make that effort to see me as someone beyond just like Chinese or, you know, coronavirus or whatever they're thinking about me. Or, you know, sushi. Like I get that at work, you know, people just sort of summing me up into the sort of stereotype because it's unfamiliar. So you go to something that's simple and easy for you to, sorry, that was my son. This is why I can't do ASMR, even though I want to do that, you know?
Sounds like that's why you need ASMR.
I really need it. So yeah, that's it's interesting. It's sometimes hard to deal with, but you know, you give me the lemons again.
Yeah. Very good at making lemonade. Have you done a lemonade video yet?
Good question. I really should, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be like my trailer. I've yet to do a trailer video, and I guess I should do that at some point, but
yeah,
maybe I'll make lemonade.
Throw the lemons at you.
Square in my eye. Ah.
My favorite videos of yours are the ones though where you do have the vlog. I think the first one that I saw that you made was the Christmas cookie one. And
oh goodness.
I loved it, you know. I thought it was so interesting because you gave you know, kind of like the history of like Christmas cookies in Germany and then how you know, it was different from your experience and everything like that. But yeah, it's great. You guys, go check it out, guys. It's fun.
That was my very first voiceover. And when I listen to it now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I sound like I'm trying to put people to sleep, you know. Hi, everyone.
I don't listen to my videos after I make them because of that. Because I just feel so, my whole life people have asked me to speak up or what?
You're so mellow, like you're totally calming. It was, yeah.
ASMR podcast.
Yeah, maybe just like open up another channel there for that.
Bedtime stories.
Yeah, totally. Or recipes. You just Chef Grace repeats recipes. 500 grams of beans, and then you can like spill the beans and just all ASMR.
Did you have, you know, growing up in America, we didn't use the metric system. Did you struggle with that at all, or you just kind of?
No, you adapt to that when you're like when you start cooking. I guess for me, like more at home, I would do a lot of research on recipes or try to find the best recipe for something, and you come across a lot of, you know, blogs or whatever, and you know, oftentimes they have it in the metric system. So I adapted the scale very early. I love it. Yeah. And in restaurants, you know, like they have you work with metrics.
What restaurant were you working in?
So I did my stage at a place called Saul in Brooklyn. He was Saul Bolton. He's the best guy ever. But he was the first chef to accept me into his restaurant. I have to say accept because as I told you earlier, like, you know, I didn't go to culinary school. I just like called him up one day. I was like, I really like love the food you're doing. Can I please come and work for you?
I mean, as someone who went to culinary school, you know, if you really do want to learn high level or, you know, go to, like, say I wanted to go cook at Noma, you know, I wouldn't get paid for that shit. They probably, and a lot of the times at these high level places too, they don't they call it a stage, like
right,
working for free.
Mm-hmm.
But these high level places wouldn't even if they had to pay all their employees, they wouldn't be able to afford to operate.
That's exactly right. That's so spot on.
Crazy. Like,
Yeah.
because when you go to these places, it costs you like minimum, like you walking through the door, it's $400. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
so, it's really unfortunate that it's so expensive to make food that good, but
I know, and I don't know about you, but during this pandemic, I think a lot of those chefs had a chance to sort of, take a look, reevaluate what they're doing. Like Daniel Hum, the 11 Medicine Park. He's, I think he was feeding, helping to feed homeless people and just creating meals for hospital staff, for example, and the next place I was at was this place I mentioned earlier, Blue Hill at Stone Barns, with they did farm to table. It's on this beautiful Rockefeller property, and they got most of their produce and even the meats from there. So it was an amazing place to work. But like you said, that anybody would like die to do a stage there. So they had people on rotation just coming in and working I was there for 4 months, and you put in a lot of hours. You're getting a lot of the work done, and it's like an army of people there. So
yeah, literally set up like the army.
Yeah, literally, like the front of the house staff would just like literally march into the kitchen and march out with the food. It was just like a clockwork. It was amazing. But at the same time, it's like you do see the holes in the system, and there's a lot of you see that people could be treated better, and be paid better for the work they're doing.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue I want to talk about on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta find the right person with when it comes to restaurant workers' rights, and
Yeah,
because I'm like, I paid so much to go to pastry school, and coming out of it, it's like $10 an hour jobs.
sure.
So
And that's what the schools don't tell you either until you.
they tell you, but they don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
They try to sell you on like the passion and everything like that, and
Yeah.
they make it like, oh well, you'll struggle for a while, but then you'll have your own restaurant, and that's never going to happen because unless you get an angel investor, or maybe your family's got money, your friends help you out, how are you going to make enough money to open a restaurant at $10 an hour? Like, no bank is going to give you a loan if you're only making $10 an hour, and then you can't even you can't even barely sustain yourself. So how are you going to pay bills? And then people with kids, they're working 2 jobs.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it.
So, and then you barely, unless most of the places I worked, unless you were a managerial position,
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have health insurance.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting paid by the hour, no health insurance.
I had one situation where a person who was there a little bit longer than me, but I would say was definitely less qualified, was promoted over me because she found out she had a terrible illness, and she needed medicine for it. She couldn't afford. The only way that she could get health insurance was they invented basically like a junior, like a sous chef position.
Okay.
So she could
get health insurance.
So then but then I'm, screwed over because now I got, it was like the pastry chef and then 2 pastry cooks or 3 pastry cooks, but now you have a pastry chef, sous chef, and then the pastry cook. So guess who gets stuck with all the grunt work? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, like I want her to have health insurance, you know?
Well, you should all have it. I
Yeah.
mean, especially because it's such a physically strenuous job, right? And
Yeah.
if you get injured and you're out of the job, you're really screwed.
I mean,
right? I mean,
one of the places I worked, they had it was almost like a competition. It was like safe work environment incentives. So like if we went a week without like a workman's comp, like, you know, submission, like nobody got hurt or nobody reported that they got hurt, really, you know,
no.
then you
Whoa.
would get a pizza for the staff, or you know what I mean, things like that.
Oh wow.
So, you know, that's
bribery.
I know.
And people, the crazy thing is, like, when you work in that, and when you're in the thick of it, you'll do it, right?
Yeah,
you'll be like, oh, you'll do it for the pizza.
And also because, you know, and also you're working 12, 14-hour days and you're not, you know, you get a break. You know, family
Right.
meal is one of the like most coveted things you could possibly have working in the restaurant, you know.
Yeah.
But it's so coveted, but you're most of the time you're eating it standing up, working, because service starts in, you know, half an hour or an hour.
Yeah, you're just wolfing it down.
Yep. But you're so grateful that somebody took the time to make you something to eat. That's stressed out, you know. It's crazy.
It's really crazy. And I think I'm hoping that that's one of the positive things that comes out of this pandemic, you know, for the industry, that people, you know, especially the owners of restaurants, the chefs, that they have had a chance to reevaluate, you know, all of that, reevaluate how their staff is treated, and to be able to honor and value them more, you know, especially now that they're like kickstarting, and I think they're needing more staff suddenly.
Yeah, because nobody wants to go back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they're like, oh, I'll take this time to train to do something else. So
yeah. Is that why you started with YouTube? You're just wanting to do something for yourself?
I mean, I started with YouTube because I went from being doing the pastry chef stuff to being a flight attendant, because I wanted to, I wanted to travel. I wanted to eat all the food. I realized that my passion from food actually comes because I feel like growing up, that's the way I connected with people, is I cooked. So after a while of working in these kitchens and stuff, I realized that although I do love making dishes and I find it really, the science super interesting, my favorite part is eating it with people and learning why, why do learning about African Americans and the relationship to rice. To me, that's more interesting than rice. You know what I mean? It's eating it with someone and learning their stories, which is another reason why I like to channel, because you're telling me the story about why you're making this dish, you know?
Yeah, thanks.
So brings me to my next question. What's one of your favorite food stories?
Out of the videos that I've done, I guess I'd have to say either the nurungji, or the dalgona. I don't know if, like, the nurungji is the scorched rice dish.
I think I've seen that one.
Okay, that one, I like that one because when I was doing research, I was researching scorched rice in general. And, you know, like when you, for example, let's say you Google 누룽지, you'll also find out that in the Dominican Republic, in Africa, in Iraq, there are different sort of variations of the scorched rice all over the world.
What
like,
is
all over the world?
rice? I don't even know.
Scorched rice?
No. Yeah.
Scorched rice is basically, in the olden days, they used to cook rice in these pots, these like, we had an aluminum pot, but before that, they used to have these cast iron pots that they cooked the rice in, and it would get scorched on the bottom. And I guess in my video, it's more about how my mom and a lot of Koreans at that time in the 70s, 80s, when they were really dirt poor. This was after the Korean War, and they just had, they had nothing, you know, they barely had like a spoonful of rice to eat every day. So they really valued every grain of rice. And so when you cooked this rice, it would get scorched on the bottom. And of course, they ate it out of necessity, but as it turns out, it's like the most delicious part of the rice. It's like the best part because it's all crispy and nutty and roasted tasting. And so, you know, my mom would like sometimes mix it with rice, with water to sort of expand on it, like to fill our bellies with, or if we got a treat, she'd take it and sprinkle some sugar on it, which was also pretty rare. So, you know, but there are sort of variations of this all over the world, which I loved finding out about. So I love that video just because it was sort of an homage to my mom, and also like how far, you know, we've come from that, and also just like finding out that, wow, like we're so connected, you know? We're also similar. There's like in Africa, there's a kind of scorched rice, and in Jamaica, it's a little different. They have different names for it too. So just, you know, Iraq, you know, Iran, Japan, China, they all have variations of this sort of scorched rice, and they all value it too. Like that's like the best part, and everybody wants it.
Actually, I just made some rice, and like I've been using this rice cooker, and it always has the rice stuck at the bottom. But
oh yeah.
But I didn't know it was a thing. I thought it was just like
that's so funny. What do you do with it? Do you toss it?
I sometimes I'll just like sit there and pick at it, to be honest. But I really like to use it for my fried rice too. Like,
yeah.
And it's so good. And I started using chicken stock instead of water in my rice for some flavor, and it makes the scorched part like taste even better.
So is it brown scorched, or is it just like kind of dry out? Is it browned?
It's
because that's good
brown,
stuff.
And then it's like also, I guess from like the extra starch, it gets that like lacy, like
yeah,
together.
That's good stuff. Like, people are so nostalgic for this stuff, the Koreans, that they've actually packaged the stuff now. Like they sell it in the stores, you know, like packaged nuddongji is hilarious. Yeah. Oh. Don't throw away that rice cooker. It's a good one. It gives you automatic nuddongji.
I thought it was just broken.
No, it's good stuff.
Because I make a lot and then I flip it out. So then, you know, the bottom becomes the top, and I just start picking it up.
You're really onto something there, you see.
Universal.
So there's that video, and then the other one was this 달고나 is like a Korean street food. It's like a sugar candy. So you melt it. There are also different kinds of variations of this one too in all over the world. It's like sea foam candy, or what else was the name for it? It's like honeycomb candy. Do you know
Oh, okay.
those?
Like a caramel with like.
It tastes caramelly. It's like a basically you melt chocolate, sugar, and then you put a little baking soda inside and puffs up.
Okay. So
And then it looks like kind of like a honeycomb.
Brittle too, except you add nuts into it, you know? Okay.
Yeah, kind of like a brittle, yeah. So on that video, it was a little bit of, it's a vlog. So I talk about, while I'm making it, I talk about the immigrant experience. So a lot of my heart went into that.
I think the little kids with the lollipops.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one's good. I'm like, oh, I gotta try that. I didn't realize some things, like I always had caramel like that, not as a street food, you know? So it's really cool to see, you know, other cultures have street food you wouldn't think is, you could do that on the street, you know? It's like
Yeah.
sort of like innovative things that you're like one time I saw, you know, cotton candy's always been like a carnival thing, but this guy, it was almost like glass blowing, but like with cotton candy.
Oh, wow.
Like making all these crazy shapes, and like it's just so amazing. The theater part too of what you get with street food.
I know, people are just so creative. I just love it. I can watch street food videos with all day, you know? It's so amazing. And these guys are like, because they're just doing that one thing all the time, they're so proficient in their movements, you know? It's like ballet. I love it.
Yeah. I really like the one thing I enjoyed about I saw in your video, I think it was the cookie video, the street food of Germany, having the sausages and having those big fires with the over them. I didn't they have those in like all over Scandinavia too, in the Christmas markets.
Okay.
And I remember like the first time I saw that, like in my dream house, like instead of I'm putting one of those.
Do it. When this channel blows up, Grace is getting one of those.
It's between one of those, or it's, you know, like talk about everything is universal. The Argentinians have a similar thing, but it's rectangular, so there's like more space on it, and then a crank on it. So
oh yes,
put the grate like far away or really close to the flame.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll do a modified version. I don't know.
You'll, by the time you get one of those, you'll be able to have whatever you want. So the world's your oyster.
Yep. So I can't believe you don't have a lemonade video.
That's hilarious.
Lemon ice?
A little cheesy though, no? It's like, give me lemons, and then like the first video I made was about lemon curd though.
Okay. That's more creative. Because a lot of people don't know about lemon curd.
I know. Why is lemon curd not in every household? Like ketchup.
I think I've had like store-bought lemon curd. I think that was my first introduction to lemon curd.
Well, you're gonna have to watch my first video and, you know, make some.
Oh, I love like homemade lemon curd is great. My favorite curd, which I can't eat these without like by themselves, but grapefruit curd.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Really good. And
never had it.
You know, you gotta make it yourself. They don't sell it, you know. But you know, and then
I could see like lime or yuzu or something. That might be interesting.
Or when people don't realize, like, when you eat key lime pie, that's just curd, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they don't.
Yeah, or lemon tart. That's all curd.
Yeah, it's all curd. Lemon meringue pie. Oh, I love lemon meringue pie. Well, then you like lemon curd.
That's right. It's funny that happened to me. I made a lemon tart recently, and I'm just making lemon curd again. It's all lemon curd. I've got 3 jars of lemon curd in the fridge right now.
Wow.
Yeah, always have lemon curd in the fridge, like ketchup.
What's your favorite thing to put it on?
Crepes, like breakfast foods, you know. Scones would be good, but I don't eat scones. I don't make scones.
Why not? Scones are easy.
Yeah, you put some on crepes with some with some whipped cream. It's really good. Yeah. I think if you were to go to England, every British person probably does have lemon curd in their fridge. I think it's like a British, I don't know why, but I associate lemon curd with England. I need to look into that.
I do associate it with tea, but I used to go over there a lot for when I was a flight attendant.
Mm-hmm.
Not that many people, like the older generation, was eating it. I feel like it's like in the States, like my grandma would eat marmalade all the time. You don't see it anymore.
Okay. Yeah. They would have it with their clotted cream, right? On their scones. I think it's like it's associated with the scones and the clotted cream.
Yeah, I love clotted cream. It's hard to find, but actually, like what I learned in pastry school, we had quick bread class basically. So we had a bunch of scones, and then my chef was like, "Oh, we need clotted cream," and he had me go in the walk-in, get all the quarts of heavy cream, open every single one of them, and he's like, "Okay, now take out the clotted cream," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So the clotted cream was the clot of cream that would block the, when you first pour heavy cream and it's got like the chunk.
Yeah, that heavy bit.
That's just clotted cream.
Yeah.
I'm not paying extra for just clotted cream. So he had me go in there with like a spoon and the paper pints. So you had to like open the top and scoop out until I had a little bowl of clotted cream. And then I had to piece everything back together and put it back in the fridge. I was like, okay.
So when you go out to tea and they have it on the menu, you're just like, blah. It's just like this job some intern took from the top of the heavy cream. I think if it was a French word, it would sound even fancy.
Oh yeah.
But it makes sense. Clot, right? Like clots up there. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. That was fun. He would make fun of me because I didn't know. So when my first day, he was like, "Go get the hazelnuts from the walk-in," and I was like, "Okay." easy task. And I'm looking around. I was in there for like half an hour. I was like, I don't know where these hazelnuts are. And he walks.
Did they keep the hazelnuts in the walk-in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. So yeah, I think it was just one of those like health inspection things that like it was just easier to put it there than figure out where else to put them. But so he was like, "Go get them from the walk-in," and I'm looking everywhere for them. And he walks in and he's all, "What's wrong with you? They're right here, like right in front of me." And I go, those aren't hazelnuts, those are filberts.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are filberts the same as hazelnuts?
Yeah,
is that what you call hazelnuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said went on the side of the box like billboards, so I didn't look in it because like why would I do that? He was just like, what's wrong with you?
So that was your very first day in a professional kitchen ever, or
Not ever, because I started
that kitchen?
that kitchen, like a pastry like centric kitchen, I would say.
Okay.
But, I started out in a bagel store when I was 14.
Ooh, I worked at a bagel store too. Did
Yeah.
you love it?
It was an interesting experience. I mean,
Okay.
I like what a character. Like sometimes I look
Yeah.
back at my childhood and I'm like, how did my mom like trust these people to be around me? But
Was this in Philly that you
this
was
is
the
in New Jersey.
Jersey? Okay.
And when I was in middle school and high school, I was really competitive in jiu-jitsu.
Oh
And
wow.
I would like teach or like assistant teach the adult class sometimes. So this guy in my class was opening a bagel store across the street from the high school I was starting at that year. And he was from the Bronx. So he was like, "Oh, Gracie Slick, you're gonna work for me at my bagel store on the weekends."
So he told you you're
He
working
told
there.
me I was,
Okay.
and so yeah, I heard you want to be a chef. You're gonna work for me, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Good on him. I think that's great.
This character was just
Yeah.
so I had to get there like 4 o'clock in the morning, which was
Mhm.
fine. I walked there. It was like down the street from where I live.
Wow. Did you make the bagels?
I actually had to argue with him. I got to make the bagels like with the like when he wasn't there because because I was a girl. Basically, I wasn't tough enough, even though I was teaching his jujitsu class.
No, yeah, back in the kitchen there, like when those guys are it's like the guys, right, baking the bagels. You don't go there.
Well, I wanted to go there, so
Mhm.
I didn't get to roll them because they had this guy from somewhere in South America, and he was like he didn't work for the bagel store. He was like the freelance bagel roller of all the bagel stores in the area.
Wow, I want to meet that guy.
Yeah, and he would come like 2 or 3 times a week, because you would have like the proofing, the aging process. So it was like
Mhm.
a rotation, and he would have like get the giant blocks of dough, had a scale, would cut like he barely needed the scale. He was so
Amazing.
he would cut the exact thing, roll them, and like do all of them for the 2-3 days or whatever.
You
And
need to find this guy and videotape him. Like, we need to find him.
I wish I had a smartphone back then
Yeah.
because I remember like just like staring at him like awe that he could
Yeah.
fast.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and
The
then
skills.
but who knows where that guy is? And then
Still making bagels.
probably. And then the other guy would I would get the front set up, and then he would I do the coffee and everything, and then he was supposed to be taking the proofed bagels from the day before or whatever that were in the fridge and boil them, put them in the oven. So I wanted to do that process because to me that's the cooking part. And
Yeah, it's rewarding.
the grill, which
Right, with like the wooden slabs. Right? Did they have the
we had
wooden
like
slabs?
well, they had a rotating grill, so it was like I made a rotating oven, so it was like I think they were metal, but it was like a big wheel, so it was like up to here on me, you know. And then so the bagels would be there, line them up, you push them in, the next wheel would come up, and you know, but then once it made one like turn, you would have to take them out, flip them over, and put them back in.
Yeah.
That was the hard part because it's so hot.
And you got to do this. That's amazing. At 14 years old?
Yeah, I wasn't
so lucky.
Yeah, my twin.
I mean, that's crazy too, but I consider that lucky that you got
No, it was lucky because I didn't even like, I mean, I don't think he listens to my podcast, but you know, like he probably doesn't know that I was doing that but it was really because the other guy was kind of lazy and he didn't want to do his job. You know, so, but you know, it was crazy times, like, because that guy wound up getting arrested for one time I went to take out the trash like at the dumpster, and it was, you know, I'd get there before the sun came up, so he just had, sometimes the owner would be there, sometimes he wouldn't, you know, and this time he was there and he's like, go take out the trash. He was very like, he did a lot of cocaine, so he was
okay.
But I didn't know that at 14, but looking back, I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. So he was very, like, he would get very crazy about like something small, you know?
Okay.
And he would like freak out. So he's like, you know, like, oh, like, look at all this mess. Like, it wasn't really a mess. Like, go take out the garbage. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I go out there and I throw throw the thing in the dumpster, and you know, it hits the bottom of the dumpster, it makes a lot of noise, and all of a sudden I hear like whoo, and I'm like, what? Like, that freaked me out. I turn around, he's got this pickup truck with a tarp over it that's full of pigeons.
Wait, this guy
that owns the bagel store.
The bagel store owner.
And
what's the story behind the pigeons? What's up with that?
So apparently illegal gambling on pigeon racing is a thing.
In Jersey.
And New York. Like, I always wondered why these like strange old people in New York like kept pigeons on their roofs. Apparently that's why.
They're racing them. They're racing pigeons.
Racing pigeons. You can't make this shit up.
There's always new stuff to learn. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Eventually he got, you know, caught in I think it was the pigeon game and maybe the drug game a little bit, but
oh man.
He was
and the bagel shop shut down then?
No, he was like MIA for like a year, and like, you know, didn't really hear what happened. And
the whole time you're in the bagel shop flipping the bagels?
No, not the whole time. I worked there for maybe like a year and a half, and then then my father died, so I was just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I was actually trying to do wrestling to get a scholarship to go to Johnson & Wales, but then turns out if you're gonna wrestle, you gotta like have someone to teach you, kind of. And the public school, you know, they didn't want, at that time they didn't want a girl on their team. Like, they weren't gonna try to help me.
So this wasn't for a girls wrestling?
No, there was no girls wrestling team. No girls. But it's, you know, it would be illegal to discriminate against having a girl on the team if you can't provide a separate team for girls. But they just, you know, they made it very difficult to stay on the team. And then They were trying to get me to cut weight to like 89 pounds,
How
like,
are you supposed to wrestle like that?
well, I just wouldn't have been able to, like, I would have, like, it didn't make sense. They were just trying to get rid of me, really.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, it's fine. I don't, they were like, because they all made fun of me for doing jujitsu. And I'm like, well, jujitsu is better than wrestling because it works in real life.
Yeah.
And then now they're all doing jujitsu. So.
Yeah.
But
they probably didn't know what it was, actually, huh?
no, not really. But anyway. So
interesting past. Hey, Grace, is there a way that I can make a quick pause? Because my battery's low and I didn't realize it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. I'll check back with you in like 1 minute. Yep. I'm just going to stop the video so you don't see me running around. Or is that? All right. I'll be right back.
So
it's so funny because I have like, I wonder if the guy who owned the bagel shop that I worked in was a cousin of that guy. Because he was pretty sketchy too, but he ran a tight ship. It was amazing to work there. Like I didn't go near the oven at all, like we were he hired all of these high school girls. They're mostly girls to work the front and the customers. And I mean, like I feel like that was my first culinary experience because you learn speed, you learn to work clean, you learn to deal with the customers, and it was amazing. I love that experience. But this owner, Carmine, he was such a character. He was like, I remember him always standing at the fish, like where the lox is, like they would sell, sliced lox to order, and they'd have like the herring and all that stuff in there. And he stood there with his like giant knife, and he was always like yelling across the way and just yelling at us the whole time. But at the end of the day, we got paid cash, like we would get this giant wad of cash, just like they would count it out for us at the counter, that was fun. You're going home, you're just like, whoa.
I always because he would always try to like, make something up. That's the thing about getting paid cash. It's not a written contract.
Exactly. Oh, so sometimes he'd pay you and sometimes he wouldn't?
Well, sometimes he would he would short me, like $20 or something. But I got paid like a Sunday in the bagel store. Like I'd be there 10, 12 hours. So I'd make like $100,
I know.
It's great.
It's fun. It was, as a high school kid, you're just like, whoa, I'm rolling in cash. Until they got audited, and then they started having to put us on an actual payroll.
Oh man, they got audited? That's
it was no fun after that, getting paid. They would like literally count it out like in the movies,
And we would go home because at the end of the day, like you can't save the bagels,
Yeah, you get you take home whatever you want.
That was my favorite part. Oh man, I would
try.
They would make this one bagel. I almost feel like they started the trend. They would make a French toast bagel.
Okay.
And so a lot of people will make a French toast bagel now, but it's not. The thing that they did differently is they use the egg bagel base, which I think
that makes sense.
Super important because French toast is bread soaked in eggs, but they would make a cinnamon raisin version of it, and then they would take that and they would roll it in cinnamon sugar. It was so good.
Okay, wait, they soaked it like a French toast.
No, they made that, like you have like egg as like a flavor, basically.
Okay.
Like at the bagel store we had
the egg bagel.
Yeah, the egg bagel. So most people
Okay.
that made the French toast would just take a cinnamon raisin bagel and coat it in cinnamon sugar. But the thing that they did different was they used the egg bagel base for the cinnamon raisin bagel and then did the powder. It was so much better. Oh man, it was so good.
That's creative.
How do you feel about the what were they calling it? The unicorn bagel or something? The rainbow one?
I don't know. I'm not sure about. I feel pretty. I'm like, I feel old when I see stuff like that. I'm like, what did they do to the bagel? You know?
Like I just don't. I don't like the idea of food dye in my bread.
Yeah, pretty much. But it just seems gimmicky. I'm not a fan of gimmicky. Like right now, I think there's some sort of TikTok trend with watermelon and mustard. Have you heard of that?
My mom told me about it because she saw it on like one of those morning shows or something. She was like, "You should do that," and I'm like, "No,
No, I shouldn't.
you should try it."
Your mom sounds funny.
He sounds like that too. I'm not.
Love that.
I did she like came over one day and she was like, I'm gonna be in the area, like I'm gonna hang out. And I'm like, okay, but I'm filming for YouTube. Like I can't change the schedule. Like I planned this out all week. She's like, oh, that'll be fun. I'll get to see behind the scenes.
She was hilarious. Does she live in Florida? She lives near you?
Yeah, she lives about 45 minutes away. So
that's a really good distance, actually. Not too far, not too close.
yeah, and she hates driving, so it's like so do I. So like, but she comes over and I was doing like a vegan ice cream thing because I had all this banana puree and I was like, I don't want to make banana bread again. But banana puree is really good for vegan ice cream because it gives a great texture. But
tastes just like ice cream. It's crazy.
So I start doing the video and I'm like introducing we're gonna make a vegan ice cream today, and then she just goes, ice cream isn't vegan.
She's right.
I was just like, oh, now I gotta start over. But then like in the editing process I forgot that she did that.
Have you ever considered keeping her in your videos?
Oh, I kept it in there.
Okay.
You just hear it from off camera. I was like,
I gotta take a look.
Do you ever have your kids in your videos?
When I envisioned this channel, I thought I would have my kids constantly in the videos, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work with them. I don't know, because I'm a bit of a control freak, and so when they when they're on camera, because I have a few videos when they are on camera, but like it's like tightly controlled, because otherwise I'll come in there and just like do I don't know. I feel pretty protective about my channel, and it's kind of a safe place and a place for my thing. Especially during pandemic, I've been home. I've just been home, like homeschooling, just home. And so it's nice to be able to have something that I can resort to as a creative outlet, and something that's a bit of I feel pretty protective of it.
How's the homeschooling going?
Oh, thank God it's over. Yeah, because a week ago, suddenly everything opened up, and because we were pretty much on lockdown. All the shops were closed, the kids were home. They were doing online schooling, and then suddenly they opened up all the shops, even the restaurants opened for seating outdoors. And the kids are in school full time now. So I have a month. I have a month till summer break. And then I'm with them 24/7 again. I love them, but 24/7 is a bit much.
You know, the things are opening up and everything, like you said. How do you see your channel changing from pre-pandemic, pandemic, post-pandemic, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that recently because the last video I put out is like a pure, tutorial, which I haven't done a whole lot of. I like to weave in some sort of history or story to my videos, but I'm finding there's more, I guess, more distraction, and because you have a little less time to like hunker down at home and reflect on things. And, I'm just finding like I want to share the food, but, not necessarily get too deep with the videos. And I think I might do that for a while. I try to do something a little bit more fun and light and more educational, and then maybe I'll throw in a vlog in there. We bought tickets to New York in July. I haven't been back in 3 years, so hopefully it'll happen, right? You never know with this pandemic. Last time we were supposed to go last year, we had to cancel. The airline canceled. We got our, refund, and that was crazy. So hopefully this year it's going to happen. I'm trying to figure out, I don't have a plan. Like, I feel like I should have a plan, but I don't have a plan for the channel. I want to capture my mom cooking or talking about food. Just talk a little bit about, just her relationship with Korean food and certain dishes. I don't know. I think I'm just going to wing it. But I think during the summer, I'll probably be doing more of that rather than the kind of videos I've been producing. I don't know how I would do that in New York. So, do you have experience during vacation and travels? How you handle your channel?
No, because I haven't had my channel when I had, vacation.
Okay, when did you start your channel? Has it been a year?
Yeah, it's been March, so 1 year.
Okay.
Definitely
vacation
this year. So
yeah,
by if I get I might be getting my flight attendant job back. We'll see. So it might go from, definitely want to continue doing the interviews because I think that's what I have the most fun with, is meeting people like you. So if I can I think like to add value to that, I don't know anything about like the equipment side of it, and I would love to be able to, like, if I get like say I get a 3-day layover in Norway, if I could talk to a chef there or someone in the food industry there and have some kind of portable setup and go interview them there, like I think that would add so much to the channel. And
definitely,
my whole, you're talking about one of the things I realized working in the kitchen is I was like, am I working to live or am I living to work?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I decided to become a flight attendant was because I didn't want to live to work anymore, So, so being a flight attendant, the lifestyle is, although like it has its ups and downs, because like if you're on standby forever, like you can't really plan, right? But it's very flexible compared to a 9 to 5, and you get to go see all these different places.
So you have a choice in like when you can fly, or to a certain degree, like or where you can fly.
It's really going to depend on. Right now, I might have like 2 opportunities. So one of them would be with Spirit Airlines, which is low cost, which is what I'm used to. And the airline I came from was Norwegian Airlines, which decided to become North Atlantic Airlines, or pretty much. So they had to hire. We were unionized like 3 days before they furloughed us all in Norwegian, which is like amazing because we had been working on that union contract for like 5 years, and then we're just about to get it. We got it, and then it was like done. So then like a few months ago, there wasn't even like a glimmer of hope that we were going to get our jobs back. So that's when I started applying. I really just applied to Spirit because I really, people give Spirit Airlines a lot of shit, but for a long time, about like 8 months, I had to commute between JFK and Fort Lauderdale on my own dime for Norwegian. And it was the only airline, like I couldn't afford it if Spirit didn't exist.
Wait, so you commuted from Florida to JFK?
From JFK to Florida, because I had transferred to Fort Lauderdale, or I put in for transfer. And at the time at Norwegian, we had an HR guy that was like a union buster, and he was a terrible human being, but he was just awful. And
as you would imagine a union buster to be, right? I mean, who does that?
Yeah. So I would like call him every day, email him every day before the transfers came out, because there's things you have to tie up. Do I have to break my lease? You have to move to Florida and be able to start. So he never got back to me. So I was like, all right, we're taking this risk. So we moved to Florida. And then a week later, I found out I didn't get my transfer. And I had to wait again, even though, so for 8 months I was fighting it on the Norwegian, like on the management side right there. And the way it worked, it was like our HR company was like not part of, it was like the reason why we had so many problems with our union contract is because we were hired by this company called OSM Aviation that was majority owned by Norwegian Airlines. So their argument was that we weren't employees of Norwegian Airlines. So we had to go through a large legal process to say, no, it's one and the same. So, which eventually led to our unionization. So during
good fight.
Yeah. So it was, shout out to Katarzyna and Valentine for making it happen. But so during that time with OSM, the guy that was a union buster was head of HR at OSM. And then Norwegian, like the technical side of like scheduling and all that, was in Norway. So I had to figure out who actually does transfers. You know what I mean? Because this guy approves them, but the people that actually put them in the system, that's a totally different person. So I wound up like basically like drafting an email of my story of like, I need this transfer. And just like sending it to like every person until it finally got to the board of directors at Norwegian, and they were like, why are you bothering us with this? Like, what is this? And they wound up, because during that time too, not only was I fighting the transfer in like, hey, like this is kind of ridiculous. I also found someone in the Florida base that would switch with me, and they were denying that. And I was like, you have no basis. Like, it's not like you have no basis to deny it now, because it's not like you're losing an employee in JFK,
Yeah.
You're just being an asshole. So that's when
It's a power play.
Yeah. So then basically when I found this other guy in the board of directors, my problem was solved in like 10 minutes. And he was like, okay, you start next month at Fort Lauderdale. But that whole time.
Good for you, man.
Red tape.
Persistence.
Yeah. And I was so lucky that I had, my family, friends that I grew up with, because, I grew up, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm definitely a product of that. So, my friends' parents and my friends, they all let me stay on their, in their extra rooms, on their couches, whatever I needed in order to commute from JFK to Fort Lauderdale. So it was quite a saga.
Yeah, and shout out to the support group.
Yes.
You're so lucky to have that,
Yeah.
And you see how who they are, right? When you have those tough times and they pull through, you can appreciate them so much more too.
Yeah, they help you make the lemonade,
Yeah, it was a team of people making lemonade with you.
Yep. So
I'm so happy for you.
But yeah, so I might be getting that job back, but luckily it won't have those same characters as it had before. So we'll see.
So you've been on furlough then all this time through Norwegian?
Kind of, sort of. For like the first, I want to say like 6 months or so, we were on furlough, which was good because it was good and bad, because we still had health insurance through the company. But then you had to pay like $200 a month for it. So that was kind of hard because you're not making any money. So
yep, 200 is a lot when you're not getting a paycheck.
Yeah, still definitely an argument for universal healthcare. But yeah, but then it was like the long haul operation. They terminated that, and then we became just unemployed. So, but now they're trying to start back up again. So we'll see. I don't know.
They need people.
Also, we had, in order to like have a chance at getting the permits to fly into the United States, they came to our union first, and they started a pre-hire agreement that they would hire back all the old employees of Norwegian.
Oh, wow.
And the negotiations are going really well, and they negotiated higher pay for us. Like, it's like the contract,
it's looking good.
It's looking good. So but at the same time, like, I can't wait 6 months to start a job. So
okay. Yeah.
We'll see.
Those are good, difficult choices to have on your hand there.
Yeah.
So hope it works out.
Are you going back to the restaurant over there?
I mean, I was, because of the kids, I was working part-time. I was really fortunate to find this position. So I've had some luck here in Germany with first I was at a catering company for 2 years, and they were really kind and understanding and forgiving with like the changing schedules I have with the kids and, the needs that I had. And at my ripe age, like, I know just because of the experience in New York, and you give everything to companies, right? Like you work your butt off, and just, in advertising, I'd have 80 to 90 hour weeks. There are no weekends, and you're there till 1, 2 in the morning, and you start all over the next day, and your health deteriorates, and you just, at the end of the day, they don't really take care of you, and so, not that they're not obligated, but you realize, like, you do it out of a sense of loyalty and wanting to sort of be a part of a good team and all of that, right? And then you realize, like, you have to prioritize your health, you have to prioritize your family, and it's easier to do that in Germany. That's one of the reasons why you're here. And I have to say, I got lucky with the bosses I've had. They've been pretty, like, I right from the start, I said, I'm not working late evenings, I'm not working weekends, which for a cook, that's unheard of, right? That's and I was like, it's in their,
Are you just doing prep, or?
It's like, if they want me, then they will hire me under those conditions. If they don't, then I'll look for another place. So I'm at the Hyatt. There's a restaurant called Doc's Restaurant there, and I'm happy that it's like an American company. Somehow I feel connected, and the chef there is named Paul, and he's a super, super nice guy, just a good guy, and he looked at my resume, and, like, the fact that he appreciated what was there was like, oh, I really like this guy, because I have a really eclectic resume, like design, art directing background, and then working in some restaurants, and now I'm in Germany, and I had a big break with a big gap with the kids. Raising them, just giving birth and raising them for that's like life, happened.
Huge job. An entire human come out of you. I think you deserve a break.
Well, I mean, I think that's another big topic, right? It's one thing to be in that industry, but another thing to be a female in the industry. And if you get to a certain age, you're wanting to have a family, the guy's not going to be able to do it. So like, you got to be the one. And that's those are also tough choices you have to make. And, you have to give up a certain amount of, your goals and just all of your dreams you had, and what you want to do with this career. So, but, luckily, I've met some nice people along the way, and I got back on the horse and just making it work, making the lemonades. So the restaurants are open. I have vacation, and in Germany, or I think it's most of Europe, it's pretty unheard of in the States, but you start off with a month's worth of vacation.
Yeah.
So that's like automatic. You get 30 days of vacation, and if you take 3 weeks off, that's fine. Like, that's normal for them, So I have that coming up in July. So I think they're probably waiting off until I come back, and hopefully it'll stay open, and I can get back to work. Hopefully the kids will stay in school. Then, when that doesn't happen, then I gotta be home. So.
They had with flying, before everything shut down, one of the biggest, like, when we were working for our union contract, the British crew, automatically 28 days vacation.
Yeah.
Same thing as Germany. And that was like the first time I ever heard about that. I was like, what?
I know.
It's a requirement. I was like, what?
It should be a requirement of every employed person, right? And in the States, you're just so used to, like, go.
And the maternity leave too, like, with pay. for a year.
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
what? With pay?
And beyond that, you could give up I think you could give up the pay part, but still stay employed. Like
Yep.
they are not allowed to fire you. You know, they have to keep you as an employee. So,
I was like, we gotta, come on, America.
I know, but you know, like despite all of that, you know, there are so many great benefits, and it's very family oriented here. But you miss the States. You know, as my younger son would say, like, people are so much nicer in America. Like, I'm like, you can't summarize all of America and say that, but you know, that's his experiences when he traveled to the States. You know, like most people think New Yorkers are rude, or they're, you know, they're curt, or they're like, you know, they classify them as rude, right?
Yeah.
But our kids had a great experience. Like they think New Yorkers are the friendliest, nicest people. And I don't necessarily disagree, you know, like you go into a deli and that sort of like abrupt service, I don't take that as rude. I'm like, you know, these guys are just professionals and they're in a hurry. So, you know, like,
you gotta get to the point.
Yeah. And I love that. I love New York service and no nonsense.
When I transferred to Florida, actually, you know, Florida it's kind of like where I am, like it's a lot like up north because a lot of the people retired here, but it's also, you know, it's way more like Southern hospitality than up north. And when I started, the people at the base, they were so, they talked a little, I think at my speech actually has slowed down since I moved down here, but they were like, you know, like I was just talking to somebody in the galley, and then like a different flight attendant came up and was like, "Are you mad at so and so?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But it was just because I was so abrupt and so like to the point, like, "Hey, can you go grab that? Go do," you know what I mean? Like, I'm not yelling at you. Like, I'm just telling you, like the sense of urgency is way higher.
Yes.
Then oh, chill.
You brought the bagel store, you know, vibe into the.
I was like, oh, okay. I gotta, you know, I relaxed a little bit, but it was just like, you know, I feel that inner clock almost like it's got to get done now.
Mm-hmm. And you realize, like, when you leave a certain, I don't know how, because we lived in California for 5 years, and even within gastronomy, there was a whole other story, you know? It's like, we were out sort of in the desert region, and people were, the cooks in the kitchen, you know, it's like a different pace. It's not like, you know.
Is it slower or is it?
Slow. But
yeah.
You realize like that's sort of the normal pace for most people. I think most people in the world, you're just used to the crazy New York region, New York, New Jersey. I don't know how Philly is, but that pace that you're used to, that I don't know, almost adrenaline rush, you know, because I brought it here to Germany, you know, to Düsseldorf. And it's just like you go in the kitchen and you're automatically, you're just like feeling it. Like that in a clock your time, I just like, okay, I gotta get it. And they're totally relaxed here, you know? And I don't know, it's like, I realized at a certain point, like, I'm a freak. I would have to tell myself, like, Annie, like, it's okay. Like, just calm down. Cause it's like, there's no one in the restaurant right now. You know, like the place I stashed at upstate, you know, like up in Tarrytown, like, you cannot be standing around. Like, the second you're standing around, someone's giving you something to do.
You got time to lean, you got time to clean. Let's go.
You stand still for 1 second. They're like, oh, you got something to do. Like, are you doing anything? You know, like, can I give you some? It's like 2 full sheet trays of mushrooms to clean, or, you know, like they'd always give you some shit to like, it's like, you better look busy, you know? So I think once you have that, it's hard to shed it. And even in Florida, like, I guess you're still in that mode.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then
flip the bagels.
If you fly with a New York crew versus like anywhere else. I mean, the Thai crew though, the Thai crew were on point when we had a Thai base.
Which crew? Thai?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up.
Yep, Thailand.
Oh, yes.
They were, not only were they on, like, they were, like, it was a sense of urgency, but it was, you wouldn't know from, like, their face.
Yeah.
And they did everything. It was like a ballet. And it was, like, down to, like, you would have coffee and tea in, like, the same pot. And they would make, like, these origami, like, fans and stuff to, like, this one is the tea in like 2 seconds, you know?
Wow.
And so the JFK crew learned from the Thai crew, because the Thai crew was the first long haul base for them. And then like, you know, that was the standard. But when they had opened Fort Lauderdale and then LA, and being able to like hop around, and also the Gatwick crew, the London based crew was very, also had that sense of urgency, I felt.
Okay.
But they were more, they partied as hard as they worked. JFK was a little more like relaxed, which is, you know, kind of probably not the right word to use, but compared to the Gatwick. And then Fort Lauderdale was like, what do you want, a vacation? I thought we were working. But it was just like the pace is so different. And then the LA was like, everyone was like, what's going on? LA was definitely, it was more relaxed than the Florida base, which I was surprised.
Interesting. Yeah, if I had to guess, I wouldn't know which one to pick, you know, because I always imagined Floridians, is that to be like super chill, you know?
I mean, they usually are, but when you get to, because like Florida, Miami, you have the huge Latin base. You also have a huge, like, you know, snowbird base, people that lived in New York and then moved to Florida. So it's kind of like, you know, halfway relaxed. It's very, and then, you know, the people, you know, people from Latin America, they work really hard, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they occupy most of the kitchens in America.
Yeah. So
they're putting the food out. So, and they're doing it well. Like, they show up on time. I mean, at least the experience I've had. Like, this place I stashed at in Brooklyn, there was a guy named Lupe. And when I got in there, he was there. He was always just there before anyone. And this guy, he didn't speak to anybody the entire time. He would break down all the fish, all the meat, and then move on to pastry. So he took care of all the like butchering, and, you know, sometimes it's a tiny kitchen, but sometimes they get like a whole side of lamb. Like, he'd break all that down, and then he'd move on to like, he'd take care of all the pastries. And it was like a one man show, you know, the amount of things he produced, and just in complete silence. He was just, you know, it was beautiful.
And you need that kind of focus if you're going to do that much work too. Like,
yeah, and it seemed he did it out of passion, you know. He loved doing that. He loved what he was doing. He was completely engrossed, and you know, he did it quietly too, because, you know, like being that was like my first professional kitchen. I was so loud. Like we'd have to do prep work, but then we also had to do a certain amount of the dishes before the dishwasher showed up later. And so I'd be like banging around in there, and he'd just give me these looks like, you know, in turn, you know. But I have to say, like, that on my last day there, he came and gave me a big hug. So I was like, yes, I got a hug from Lupe.
He took a break to give you a hug too.
I know.
One of the things that I really was a huge change in my mindset, I guess, when I moved from the restaurant to flying was I think one of the hardest parts about being in the restaurant is you have that camaraderie, which is, you know, there's no replacing that camaraderie with your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes it, there's also like, there's no one to replace you if you get sick, really.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing, so like if you called out, like you better be in the hospital. Like, so when I moved to flying, the idea that, you know, if you didn't feel good, you didn't have to go into work because they had other flight attendants on standby that could take your place was like,
wow.
You know, that was a huge shift in that whole like, am I living to work or am I working to live? You know,
Yeah,
I'm working because I don't want to let anyone else down. You know, that was a really big change for me. So, you know, but they don't make two lupes. That's the thing.
No, and I think, you know, in some ways, you know, the whole industry the upper management takes advantage of that. You know, they know that it existed in advertising too. You know, it's almost like growing up in an abusive environment, and because you're growing up in that environment or going through some sort of hardship together, and that bonds people, right?
Yeah.
And you know, they know the bonds are strong, and they hire people who they know are dedicated, and they have a passion for what they do, and also are, you know, good teammates. So it's a beautiful thing. At the same time, you know, there are people who are benefiting from that kind of dedication. And yeah, I really hope things change there in that whole industry. And I'm glad you have an outlet. And I actually heard a lot of cooks aren't like they decided they're not going to be cooks anymore. They found some other things to do. So,
which to me is like, you know, I get it. I did the same thing, but
yeah,
you know, particularly a friend of mine, Steve, he's one of the best chefs I've, you know, as the food I've eaten, like he's so good. And he's, you know, he's tried forever to get his things going and stuff. And I just talked to him recently and he's like, oh, well, I think I'm going to move into like, you know, doing like medical, like tech work, you know? And I'm just
okay.
Such a waste of like it's.
I know that's hard. It is heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. So.
I mean, is he going to channel that in some other way? Does his cooking talent?
I hope so. So I'm gonna try to get him on the show, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Work it out. I was like, come on, I've been telling him, start a YouTube channel. Like once a month, I'm like, I'll text him. I'll be like, so did you start your channel yet? So he's like, oh, he's tired of me.
I mean, I think a lot of cooks, you know, or when you think that YouTubing is going to be easier. Can I say that YouTubing? You might think it's like you're just going to do your thing, right? Like cook and do the things that you know, but there's like all this other background stuff that you have to do. First, the filming and the editing, and just a whole lot of non-cooking related things.
Yeah, which is why another reason why I like the interviews, because way less editing.
Yeah. I mean, do you listen to chefs podcasts, and is that why you're wanting to do this? Because I love interviews too. So, I understand from that point of view, but is it something that you were wanting to do for a long time?
Well, I actually, while I cook, I listen to podcasts a lot. And a lot of times I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Okay, I don't know that one.
So I got into listening to that one because he's a Fear Factor guy. I don't know. You remember?
Okay.
But he was a stand-up comedian, but doing jujitsu as a kid, he also is big in like the martial arts circles because he commentates for the UFC. So his podcast, I think it's like the number one podcast in the world, actually.
Okay.
Like
really been living under a rock.
No, but people like don't, if you're not, it's weird. Like podcasts, like I feel like podcasts and now TV shows, like because there's so many different platforms you can get them on, and like you'll find out about like a show or something and be like, oh my god, this new show is awesome, and you find out it came out like 3 years ago. So but he has really interesting people on from all walks of life, and he had became friends with Anthony Bourdain at one point, and that was my favorite, like favorite.
Is there an episode with Anthony Bourdain? Because I'll listen to that.
I think there's
Okay.
an interview with him.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I was like, wouldn't it be? That's like where I first got inspired to like do an interview show that's just like focused on food, or around food, because as he was talking, as Joe Rogan was talking to Anthony Bourdain, and then he also interviewed another chef from just like a restaurant he liked in LA or something. And this guy who talks to neuroscientists, other like such a different or variety of people from all different walks of life.
Yeah.
It's like very eye-opening to see how little he really knew about cooking and food. And like yesterday I was listening to one, he was interviewing his friend who bakes bread, and he was like, I heard sourdough is like low gluten. I was like, no.
It's actually true that it is low gluten. Actually, I think the gluten completely breaks down at a certain point.
Yeah, but it was like the way he was thinking about it, like it was gluten.
Like a low gluten bread.
Yeah, like people are like, I'm like, if you have celiac disease, like you don't want to eat sourdough, like probably not a good idea. So it was just, and then his friend was talking about, the enrichment process of like, all these processed breads, and, how taking the nutrients back, taking them out, putting them back in, like not good for you. And also like the amount of sugar in bread, and, whereas like a sourdough usually is just flour, water, yeast, so,
right.
It's pretty hard to mess up. But,
yeah. It's crazy how much how they could mess up something so simple, because it's every time you look at the ingredients on the Wonder Bread package, and it's hard to believe that it's true.
yeah,
The list of ingredients like this long.
yeah, I always would call it like cake bread because it's got so much sugar in it. But it was also amazing to me, like how much money you have to pay for less ingredients. You know, like,
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's, of course, you know, shelf life and everything like that, but it was,
You're paying for the skill with the sourdough. I mean, I've tried that. That's really, it's hard to bake sourdough. I could never get it right. I
I
don't
mean,
know if you do breads.
I do bread. I love bread. Um, and I think, you know, it's like anything, like the more you do it, the better you get at it. And when you don't do it for a while and you're out of practice, you gotta shake off the rust, you know? But it's also a lot easier with an established mom than when you just start making your mom, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you bake sourdough at home?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I tried that. I just like couldn't find, I said to myself, I can cook, I can bake, but I'm not a bread baker because I tried for like a year. And I think maybe it comes down to like not really enjoying the process. And I don't really get the process. Do you know?
I think
Like,
it's a really, because even when I took bread in pastry school, like
yeah.
it was one of those things that's hard to explain to someone, but if you like do it with them, you're like, oh, it's easy, you know? like it's one of those things, like if you were going to do an unpaid internship somewhere else, like go, you know, and you want to learn bread,
Mhm.
like that is an excellent thing to do because it's something that you have to learn the feel for. um,
Yeah.
and there's like so many variants that you like if you had to
Yeah.
talk about it, it would seem overwhelming, but like usually it's like, that doesn't feel gassy enough, I'll wait longer.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I think you have that. Like, I think some people, I know it probably sounds like a cop out, but I really feel like some people have like a knack for it. You know, they have a feel for, it's like they're at one with it's like bread whisperers with this mass of flour, water, yeast. You know, actually with sourdough, it's just flour, water, and salt, right? I know some people really have a knack for it because I have friends who bake sourdough, and I have to say, like, some of them do it much better than the others. Like they're not professional bakers, but they seem to have a connection with the dough and this whole process. I feel like it's almost on a spiritual level.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, especially in small batches, but it's just, I think it's just practice when you get the feel for it. So of course, I mean, of course,
Okay.
though, like anything if you don't enjoy doing it, and it doesn't matter if it's bread or whatever it is, the person that enjoys it is going to spend more time doing it.
Yeah.
The better.
And you have to be with somebody who's okay with, I think, the failures that come from, you know, like, because I bake it off with all the work that went in. I bake it off, it'd come out, and it was flat or it would be dense, you know,
Oh,
and
that would happen to me all the time,
I
especially.
wouldn't know like what to do with it. I'd be like, did it overproof? Did it underproof? Like, which one is it?
It depends on. Usually, it's under, but it could be. It depends on what stage. You know what I mean? Because you have
I
the.
don't know what you mean.
Oh, so you know, you make your bulk fermentation basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 12 steps of bread baking. There's a really good book called Bread. I'll send you a picture of it if you're interested. But you know, you have your bulk fermentation, and when you go shape it, then you have your, I don't know, I forgot what they call it, but it's the fermentation after you shape it into the loaf, right?
Uh-huh.
So during that time, you let it proof like upside down in like a basket or a bowl, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you
Flip it.
flip it by getting that oven spring at home, right?
Yeah.
And you get that, you know, the ear on your bread and everything.
I
Uh,
know.
it's
Never got it.
Yeah, but that's why it's really difficult because you have a home oven. like in a professional setting, you have a giant stone oven, and then you have a steam injector,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it makes it like way harder, especially, and also your home oven, you open the door and it opens, it's the whole oven door, all the heat rushes out. And then the oven's, colder when you put the bread in, and you don't have a stone floor that's retaining heat. You just have wire racks. So that's
Yeah.
why people started doing it in the Dutch oven, and you definitely get a better product. But that's also a pain in the ass, because then you have the oven open and you have to manipulate this, Dutch oven and get the bread in there and do all that.
Yeah.
But usually with the flatbread, especially like if you were trying to do everyone started their mom during the pandemic, like you're not going to start getting like really good bread until, I would say, minimum a month after you started your mom, minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did it like two people, like you can start making bread after 2 weeks, but you're really not going to start getting like a rise until a month. And probably I would say like 3 months is really when I would be like, oh, look, check out my mom, guys,
Yeah, mom has to feel at home or in your kitchen.
Yeah.
To
Develop it, and it's like not enough yeast, it's not enough funk.
oomph.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was just like I realized there was a in those conversations that there was kind of like a hole that could be filled with these kind of interviews, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also you can't it would be very hard to talk about everything we talked about even in this interview surrounding food in a recipe video, you know?
Yeah, true.
So, even there's a couple channels that I really like. Do you know my name is Andong?
Yeah. I watched a few of his videos. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very curious guy, packed full of information.
Yeah. So I love those, the history and stuff like that. But then you don't, it's very like segmented. Like, so I do like the long format, and we talked about, we got heavy, we got light, we got between. So
yeah, it's great. You should keep it up. It's really fun too. And I don't know if you listen to do you know Dave Chang? He has a podcast.
I like David Chang, and every time what is this podcast called?
It's the Dave Chang Show. It's hilarious. He's got some really great guests on there, and just the way the rapport between him and especially if it's a good friend, and actually he has another podcast called The Recipe Club, and they pick one topic, for example, like rice. Yeah, let's go back to rice, and they'll just riff on rice and talk about various, cultures and how they enjoy rice, and it's just the conversations are pretty fun. Yeah.
I gotta check that out because I love, Ugly Delicious was amazing. And
Yeah, that was good.
And his work, I really like it. And I mean, it was really cool when I was flying. I went to Beast in Copenhagen, which was in his show, and I didn't know until after, like, I went there and I was like, this is the best pizza I ever had in my life, like including New York pizza. Like they're not all of their pizza, but their plain slice with the stracciatella cheese on top was like the best slice of pizza I've ever had in my life. And
Wow.
Ugly Delicious came out like a month later, and they went there, and I was like,
I was there.
oh, it was so cool. And then like when I would come back, when I was flying, I would make like lists of like all the different places I want to go and stuff.
Yeah.
Like whoever was on the crew, I'd be like, this is where I'm going. If you want to come with me. If not, whatever.
That's so
And
great.
yeah, so Beast was definitely like it, in Copenhagen, like Scandinavia for Americans is very expensive. So
Mm-hmm.
like one of the reasons, the first like why I went there was because it was cheap compared to anywhere else. That was like a nice place to go.
Yeah, and usually that's the best food, no? I mean, I like
Usually it is, but it was just usually it's the best food, but it even surpassed those expectations. And then to get
wow.
usually I feel like when places get like a notoriety like that, like being on a TV show or something, like they jack the prices up,
Mm-hmm.
and it still like stayed the same. Like it was 10 kroner for a beer, which was like what? They're like,
What is that the equivalent of in dollars?
or not 10 kroner, 100, whatever the equivalent is for $10. I already did the conversion in my brain.
Okay.
But like, by where we were staying, it was like $30 for a beer. Like it was really expensive. So
Mm-hmm.
we then I started finding more holes in the wall, and like because Noma's in Copenhagen, I was like, okay, who worked there and then opened
Right.
a restaurant that's cheaper. So
There's a taco shop. Do you know about the
yeah, you
taco?
had the
Is it
Sanchez.
Sanchez?
Yeah, I went there. It was great.
And
Yeah, it was so good. I didn't get to go to because I didn't know there were two locations. So I wound up going to the one that's in like their, um, it's, they have very good public transportation in Copenhagen. And there's like something different around each subway station. So there's this one subway station where you come up and it's like a open air market, and also
nice.
like a food hall.
Whoa, sounds like paradise.
Yes, it is. So yeah, so she has one of her like stands in the like
Yeah.
not the enclosed place, but like the open air part.
Nice.
Um,
Probably tastes better there too, right? Like eating it outdoors.
yeah, and then also like we got to go to all the different places in the market, so that was great because some people were like, I don't want tacos, and I'm like,
oh man.
yeah. You're missing out.
But I find that interesting that because it happened in New York too, like all these guys who worked and girls who worked in these Michelin star restaurants in Manhattan, in the 90s, what they did was they wanted to open up their place and went to Brooklyn where the rents were still cheap at the time. And they opened up like simple places, they didn't, although the guy I worked with, he was one of those guys, who and he had a like an upscale restaurant, but most of these guys, they went off and like they opened up a food truck, or and you kind of could understand that because I mean, how many hours doing brunoise, and like after a while, I think you get in your head like, I'm gonna do something completely opposite of this, where it's just going back to good food.
I think that's what Ugly Delicious was about too, because it's more about not like, oh wow, it's so difficult to make this, and it's
Yeah.
more about like, this is some good stuff.
Yeah, it's just about the food, right?
Yeah,
And
and
not
I
even like the presentation.
exactly, but to see you could see they took the stuff they learned from doing the the fine dining, and if it was worth it, they put it into what they were doing.
Right, like for flavor extraction, for example, right? Like if they're using a technique to get the most flavor out of something.
Yeah. Or the Noma, Noma, they wrote a book about fermentation. So
Yeah.
I noticed like a lot of the places that opened up where people worked there were a lot of like different kinds of pickles and like fermented things.
Yeah.
They took that knowledge with them. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I think this story, like Dave Chang's story, is all that, right? You know, he worked in these high-end places, Michelin star restaurants, and you know, also this kind of food shaming, you know, that you feel as a Korean growing up with all this kimchi in your house and garlic and like the smelly foods that you're ashamed of when your friends come over. And like, you know, you the packed lunches you bring to school, you feel ashamed if it's anything unrecognizable from a sandwich. And so you kind of go away from that for a while, and you know, you get it in your head that this like these French techniques and these, you know, these sort of Western kitchens are the end all be all. But at a certain point, I think a lot of the chefs, especially, you know, Dave Chang, his story is like just reconnecting with his ugly, delicious food that his Korean mom made. I love that whole story.
I mean, growing up, I remember the kids that we had like a very large Italian population.
Mm-hmm.
So like some of them would bring the leftovers in from like, you know, Sunday dinner is a big deal in the Italian household. So they would bring them in on Monday. And you could see that they felt ashamed about it. And I was just like,
Wow.
but I have a peanut butter and jelly on wheat toast. Like it's Wonder bread. Like
Wonder bread.
something out here.
Bread made out of 30 ingredients.
Yeah. So I think too that was like I remember always, you know, the trading. You know, you kind of had lunch.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Totally.
yeah, I was always trying to like. I remember when Pocky like came to school, like Pocky was like a big thing, you know, and I don't think.
What, like those steaks covered in chocolate?
Yeah, like
Pocky?
that was like.
The steaks. Okay.
That was
It
exotic.
came.
Yeah, it like came from America. You know, like Pokemon and Pocky. We had like, you know, we didn't have that many Asian students, but we had this one kid whose father worked something in video games, and he had the yellow, like the Pokemon games have like all different colors. So
Okay.
yellow Pokemon game in Japanese in his Game Boy. It's like all of a sudden he was the coolest kid in school.
And he had the Pockies.
And he had the Pocky. And oh man, I was like, this is amazing. So everyone was smiling for his Game Boy. I was like Oreos? Okay, you wanna switch?
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun to collect all those stories that kids have, you know, these sort of immigrant lunchtime stories, because I've heard so many of them. Like I have a friend from Dominican Republic, and she would tell me how her mom would pack her things like arroz con pollo, and you know, her Korean friend would have these Korean whatever creations, and she always envied her for her food and vice versa. And so they'd always do the swapping, you know. But I think of this Japanese kid in my class. I can't remember what grade, but he would always have an onigiri every time. And it was like this beautiful package, you know, it's like in one, it's like a meal in one little package, right? And every time like he opened that thing and ate it, I think about him now, and I think he was a bit ashamed, you know, to have this thing that nobody had, and he'd always be eating it like this.
Yeah, like this.
Like but I remember thinking like, that's so pretty. Like what is that? That looks so delicious, you know? So I suspect it'd be interesting to interview people who were on the other side of those lunches, and like how they had the food envy, or curiosity at least, right? Like with you with the Puckies. And then there's the shame side of it where, you know, you're just like, oh man, smelly food and everyone's looking at me, you know, not knowing some of those kids want your food.
I know. It's like they're not looking at you. You're weird. They're looking at you because they're hungry.
They don't want that peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
No. It's terrible. And we had it was Juicy Juice, which I still love Juicy Juice.
Or Capri Sun. Right.
Capri Sun, that was for cool kids. We had.
Oh yeah? Oh, okay.
But honestly, like, I was okay with not having Capri Sun because I had such a hard time getting the straw to go through the pouch.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll keep it. It's okay.
A lot of kids were like victims of the, you know, it's kind of spraying back on me. But now they have it easy, the kids. They don't have to struggle like we did. Because the Capri Suns, like I know because my kids sometimes want Capri Sun and like I'll occasionally buy it for them. They have like a little soft opening there, like you can just. Kids these days, you know.
We used to, at the end of the international flight, like time before the pandemic, they put Capri Sun on our flight. And
okay.
This is crazy.
For the staff or for the people on the flight?
I mean, it was to buy like on the snack bar, but I'm sure a couple of the staff, you know, kind of like, well, but it was
yeah, it was like the uncool kids who didn't get it when they were little. They were like, I want that finally.
But it was weird. Like Swedish people love Capri Sun and Pepsi Max. I don't know.
Pepsi Max? What?
Yeah, Pepsi Max is like, I guess like Diet Pepsi, like rebranded.
Oh, okay.
But they won't even drink the regular Pepsi.
Random.
Yeah. You learn a lot of things when you fly here. Like, this is weird. Even like, because sometimes you think, oh, it's just because we're on the plane and like, you know, these are the options we have. But then you would go into Sweden and everybody's drinking Pepsi Max.
No way.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you wonder if it's like the chicken or the egg thing. Like, did they demand it and that's why it's there, or did they market it there? And
yeah, it's so weird. Because also, like, I mean, you would like, where's Coca-Cola at? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was weird. So I think I gotta get going, but is there anything else you wanna plug in there? I mean, we're gonna have all your links, you know. Blow it up.
I just want to say thanks so much. This was so much fun. I mean, just to be able to talk about food and just the culinary world with you and bagels, you know.
It was great to learn more about you, and I hope everyone will go and subscribe to your channel.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If you're out there.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions for Annie, put them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to both of our channels. So I'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.